The night sky burned red as fire rained down from above. Explosions shook the ground, turning towering buildings into piles of rubble. People screamed, running through the streets, searching for safety where none existed. The attack had come without warning. One moment, the world was at peace. The next, everything was on fire. Commander Jack Reynolds stood inside a military bunker deep underground, staring at the large screen in front of him. Satellite images showed the devastation spreading across the planet. Every major city was under attack. New York, London, Tokyo, Sydney. The enemy had arrived with no mercy, no demands, no negotiation. They came to destroy. The Krathul, a race of monstrous alien invaders, had descended from the sky in massive black ships. Their weapons were far beyond human technology. Buildings crumbled with a single blast. Their soldiers, towering creatures with thick, armored skin, moved through the ruins, killing everything in sight. The Krathul did not take prisoners. They only left behind ashes. Jack's fists tightened as he listened to the last distress calls from around the world. "This is Sector 12. Enemy forces breaking through." The message cut off. Another voice followed, filled with panic. "Los Angeles is gone." Silence. The bunker was filled with soldiers, scientists, and government leaders. Fear covered their faces. Some whispered prayers. Others simply sat in shock. No one had ever seen anything like this before. Humanity had fought wars, had faced disasters, but nothing compared to this. A transmission came through. A deep, cold voice filled the bunker. The image of a Krathul commander appeared on the screen. His face was like a nightmare. Dark, rough skin covered in scars, glowing yellow eyes that held no emotion. His name was Zurek, and he was the one leading the attack. "Surrender," Zurek said, his voice slow, measured. "You have no future, no hope. Submit, and we will end your suffering quickly." Jack felt the rage rise inside him. He turned toward his officers. "Open the channel." A soldier pressed a button, and Jack stepped forward. His voice was steady, filled with anger. "You just made the worst mistake of your existence." Zurek tilted his head slightly, as if amused. "Is that so?" Jack didn't flinch. "Yes. You see, we humans, we don't break, we don't surrender, and we never forget." For a moment, there was silence. Then Zurek let out a low chuckle. "Interesting," he said. "Then we will see how long you last." The screen went black. Jack turned back to his team. His voice was sharp, commanding. "We're not dying today. Not without a fight." The room snapped back to life. Soldiers rushed to their stations. Scientists worked furiously, bringing up battle plans. Humanity wasn't finished yet. Across the world, survivors hid in underground shelters, watching as their cities burned. Families huddled together, whispering prayers for a miracle. But miracles would not come. Only war. Deep in the ruins of Washington, a small group of resistance fighters prepared for battle. Their leader, a young woman named Sarah Connors, held a stolen Krathul weapon in her hands. She looked at the enemy soldiers marching through the city. Her voice was cold. "They think we're weak. They have no idea what's coming." The first battle had been lost. But the war was far from over. Humanity was about to show the universe what happened when you tried to wipe them out. Jack Reynolds had seen war before, but nothing like this. The world was on fire. Smoke covered the sky, turning day into an endless night. The few remaining human cities were nothing more than piles of rubble. The Krathul moved through the ruins like predators hunting their prey. They thought the war was over. They thought humanity was finished. They were wrong. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, inside an underground military base, the last hope of humanity gathered. Soldiers, scientists, and world leaders sat in a cold, steel-lined war room, their faces hard, their eyes filled with the same fire. No one spoke of surrender. There was no point. The Krathul didn't take prisoners. Jack stood at the center of the room, looking at the massive screen in front of him. The enemy's fleet was still in Earth's orbit. Their ships, dark and monstrous, blocked out the stars. They controlled the skies, the land, even the oceans. Humanity was outnumbered, outgunned, and nearly out of time. But they still had one last card to play. A man stepped forward. Dr. Elias Carter, one of the greatest minds on Earth, pulled up a blueprint on the screen. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "Project Ragnarok," he said. "Our last chance." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the name. For years, it had been nothing more than a secret plan, something hidden deep beneath the surface while humanity prayed it would never be needed. But now, there were no more prayers, only war. Dr. Carter continued. "We've spent decades working on advanced weapons, but we never had a reason to use them. Until now." He pointed at the screen. "These ships, our Hell Reapers, are fully automated war machines. Faster, deadlier, and capable of fighting without fear." A murmur ran through the room. Jack's eyes stayed locked on the screen. The Hell Reapers were more than just ships. They were weapons of destruction, controlled by an AI designed to learn and adapt. Unlike human pilots, they wouldn't hesitate. They wouldn't retreat. They would fight until the last enemy was gone. One of the generals spoke up. "How many do we have?" Dr. Carter hesitated. "Not enough." Jack's jaw tightened. He turned to his officers. "We don't need enough. We just need to hurt them." He stepped forward, his voice strong. "We hit them where it hurts. Supply chains, command centers. We take their weapons and turn them against them." Another officer frowned. "That won't be easy. The Krathul are too strong." Jack's expression didn't change. "Then we get stronger." Across the base, soldiers suited up, preparing for a fight they knew they might not survive. Engineers worked around the clock, activating the Hell Reapers, arming them with the deadliest weapons humanity had ever built. The underground hangar rumbled as the first warships powered on, their red lights glowing in the darkness. Meanwhile, the Krathul had no idea what was coming. Zirek, the enemy commander, sat aboard his massive warship, watching Earth burn. To him, this was nothing more than another victory, another world conquered. He didn't realize that humanity wasn't just surviving. They were waiting. And soon, they would strike back. "You said." The sky above Earth was no longer blue. Smoke and fire covered the atmosphere, turning everything into a dark battlefield. The Krathul believed the war was over. They had taken the cities, destroyed the armies, and crushed any resistance that stood in their way. But deep underground, hidden from their scanners, humanity was preparing for revenge. Commander Jack Reynolds stood in the war room, his eyes locked on the giant screen in front of him. The enemy fleet hovered above Earth, massive black ships blocking out the stars. They were waiting for the last survivors to surrender. They didn't know that humanity was about to strike first. Jack turned to his team. His voice was steady. "We hit them hard. We hit them fast. No mercy." The soldiers around him nodded. They had lost their homes, their families, their world. There was no fear left in them, only rage. Dr. Elias Carter stepped forward, pulling up the battle plan. "We've hacked into their systems," he said. "Their security is strong, but not perfect. We can take control of some of their weapons, turn them against them." Jack nodded. "Do it." In the dark hangars beneath the base, the Hell Reapers powered on. Their red lights glowed as they prepared for war. These ships had no pilots, no human weaknesses. They were machines built for destruction. The first wave of attack began. A small team of human soldiers infiltrated a crashed Krathul ship, planting explosives and hacking into the alien systems. The Krathul patrolled the wreckage, unaware that death was waiting for them. A young soldier, Emma Carter, moved through the ruins, her pulse steady. She placed the final charge and whispered into her radio, "Detonating in 3, 2, 1. The explosion ripped through the battlefield. Fire and debris shot into the sky as the Krathul ship was torn apart from the inside. At the same moment, in space, the Hell Reapers launched from underground silos. Their engines roared as they shot into orbit, heading straight for the enemy fleet. The Krathul didn't see them coming. The first wave of Reapers slammed into the alien ships, firing with precision. Plasma blasts tore through the Krathul defenses. Their warships, once thought to be indestructible, exploded one by one. On the ground, Jack watched the battle unfold. For the first time since the war began, the enemy was on the defensive. Zirek, the Krathul commander, watched from his command ship. His yellow eyes narrowed. "Impossible," he growled. He had underestimated humanity. He had believed they were weak. But now his fleet was burning, and for the first time, fear crept into his mind. Jack's voice echoed through the command center. "This is just the beginning." The war for Earth was far from over. It had only just begun. "You said." The ruins of New London were silent. Smoke curled through the broken buildings. The streets were filled with ash, shattered glass, and the bodies of those who had not escaped in time. The city, once full of life, was now a graveyard. The Krathul moved through the destruction like hunters, their glowing eyes scanning the wreckage. They were searching for the last survivors, the ones hiding in the underground tunnels. To them, the battle was over. They had already won. But humanity was not finished. Deep beneath the ruins, a small group of resistance fighters prepared for war. Their leader, a former soldier named Daniel Hayes, crouched near a map, his face covered in dirt and sweat. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. "We make our stand here," he said. "They think we're weak. They think we're broken. Let's show them what happens when you push humans too far." Around him, soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers armed hidden explosives. Every survivor in New London was ready to fight. They had nothing left to lose. Above ground, the Krathul commander Varish signaled his troops forward. His voice was cold. "Eliminate them all." The first wave of Krathul soldiers moved in, their heavy footsteps shaking the ground. They expected an easy victory. Instead, they walked into hell. The first explosion tore through the streets, sending alien bodies flying. Hidden turrets opened fire, cutting down the advancing forces. From the shadows, human snipers struck with deadly precision, taking out the enemy one by one. The Krathul roared in anger, charging forward. But the humans were ready. They used the ruins as cover, striking from all sides. They moved fast, fought harder, and refused to give up. In the middle of the battle, Emma Carter, the young soldier, climbed to the top of a collapsed skyscraper. In her hands, she held a stolen Krathul weapon, something humans barely understood. She aimed at the largest enemy ship hovering above the city. Her radio crackled. "Emma, don't." She didn't listen. She fired. A beam of blue energy smashed into the ship, cutting through its armor. The ship trembled, sparks flying from its engines. For the first time, a Krathul warship was falling from the sky. Emma smiled. Then the return fire hit. The blast struck the building, tearing through steel and stone. Emma barely had time to scream before she was thrown into the air. The last thing she saw was the burning sky above her. On the ground, Daniel watched as the warship crashed, exploding into flames. His heart clenched as he realized what had happened, but there was no time to grieve. The battle was still raging. And then something unexpected happened. The remaining Krathul soldiers hesitated. They looked at the destroyed warship, at the burning ruins, at the humans who refused to die. For the first time, they felt something alien to them. Doubt. Varish growled in frustration. He had underestimated these creatures. Again, he signaled a retreat. The humans had won the battle for New London. But the war was far from over. "You said." The fires of New London still burned. Smoke curled into the sky, and the streets were filled with the bodies of both human and Krathul soldiers. The battle had been won, but at a terrible cost. Daniel Hayes limped through the rubble, his rifle slung over his shoulder. His uniform was torn, his face covered in dirt and dried blood. His team had fought with everything they had, and they had driven the enemy back. But victory came with a bitter taste. He stopped at the ruins of a fallen skyscraper, staring at the wreckage. His radio buzzed. A voice crackled through. Still no sign of Emma. Daniel clenched his jaw. The young soldier had saved them all when she fired on the Krathul warship, but the explosion had thrown her from the building. They had been searching for her body ever since. "She's alive," he said, refusing to believe anything else. "Keep looking." Nearby, a group of soldiers worked to clear debris, dragging out the wounded. The resistance fighters of New London were not just soldiers. They were engineers, doctors, ordinary people who had refused to give up. The moment of victory did not last. A loud hum filled the air, deep and unnatural. The ground vibrated. In the distance, a massive shadow darkened the sky. Daniel looked up, and his blood turned cold. A Krathul mothership was descending. It was different from the warships they had fought before. This one was larger, miles wide, its surface covered in thick, black armor. Its underbelly pulsed with energy, glowing like a dying sun. Daniel's radio exploded with voices. "They're sending reinforcements. We can't fight something that big. We need to evacuate, now." The truth was clear. New London had won a battle, but the war had just escalated. Daniel pressed his radio. "All units, fall back to the tunnels. Get the civilians underground. We hold the line until the last transport is out." The mothership loomed overhead. Then, without warning, it opened fire. A massive energy blast erupted from its core, tearing through the city like a hurricane of destruction. Buildings vanished in an instant. The ground split apart, sending rubble and bodies flying. The air itself turned to fire. Daniel barely had time to dive behind cover before the shockwave threw him across the street. His ears rang. His vision blurred. When he looked up, half the city was gone. His radio crackled again. "We've got incoming." Hundreds of them. From the burning wreckage, Krathul war beasts emerged. These were not the armored soldiers they had fought before. These were something worse. Towering four-legged creatures, covered in thick, black scales, with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp limbs. Their mouths were filled with rows of jagged teeth, dripping with acid. Behind them, more Krathul warriors advanced. Their weapons pulsed with energy, their faces twisted into cruel grins. They weren't just here to destroy. They were here to make an example of humanity. Daniel gritted his teeth. He wouldn't let that happen. "Fall back to the tunnels," he shouted, firing his rifle. His bullets ripped through the first enemy that got too close, but more took its place. The battle began again. Meanwhile, deep underground, far below the burning city, in a hidden military command center, Commander Jack Reynolds watched the destruction on a large screen. The enemy had responded faster than expected. "They're sending everything they have," one of his officers said. Jack's hands clenched into fists. The Hell Reapers had dealt a massive blow to the enemy fleet, but now the Krathul were changing tactics. They weren't just trying to wipe out humanity. They were trying to break them. Dr. Elias Carter stood beside Jack, his face pale. "The mothership is too well armored. We don't have enough firepower to take it down." Jack's eyes stayed on the screen. "Then we find another way." The officer next to him hesitated. "Sir, if New London falls, we might lose contact with the entire resistance in that region." Jack exhaled. He had lost too many people already. He refused to lose more. His radio buzzed. A voice came through, weak but alive. "Jack, can you hear me?" Jack's eyes widened. "Emma." The signal was faint, but it was her. "I'm alive, buried under rubble, but I can see something inside the mothership." Her voice was weak, but determined. "They have a control center at the base of the ship. If we take it out, we might be able to disable the whole thing." Jack turned to Dr. Carter. Could that work? The scientist hesitated, then nodded slowly. If we hit the right power core, we could disable their entire command structure. But getting close enough. Jack's voice was firm. We'll find a way. He turned back to the radio. Emma, stay alive. Help is coming. She gave a weak chuckle. Tell them to hurry. I'm not planning on dying today. Jack turned to his officers. Get me a strike team. We're going in. Back in the city, Daniel and his fighters held their ground, but it was getting harder. The Krathul war beasts tore through their defenses. Energy blasts rained down from above. Every second they stayed meant more lives lost. A soldier ran up to him, panting. Sir, we can't hold much longer. Daniel looked around. The city was in ruins. Their weapons were running low. If they didn't retreat now, no one would make it out alive. He pressed his radio. Jack, if you're gonna do something, do it fast. Jack's voice came through. Steady. Hold the line, Daniel. Help is on the way. Daniel exhaled. He didn't know what kind of plan Jack had, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was keeping as many people alive as possible. He gritted his teeth, raised his rifle, and charged back into the fight. The war for Earth was reaching its breaking point, and humanity was about to take its biggest gamble yet. The battle for New London was turning into a massacre. The Krathul war beasts ripped through human defenses like they were nothing. The streets were filled with fire and death. The air was thick with the screams of the dying. Daniel Hayes ducked behind a crumbling wall, his heart pounding. His rifle was hot in his hands, nearly empty. The resistance had fought hard, but the Krathul were endless. If they didn't find a way to escape soon, they would all be wiped out. His radio crackled. Daniel, listen up, came Jack Reynolds' voice. It was calm, but urgent. We have a plan. We're hitting their command center inside the mothership. If we succeed, we shut them down from the inside. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. How much time do you need? 15 minutes. Daniel glanced around at his men. They were tired, wounded, running out of ammo. 15 minutes might as well have been a lifetime. Understood, he said. We'll hold the line. He turned to his remaining soldiers. This is it, he said. One last stand. We hold them off for as long as we can. No one hesitated. They nodded, gripping their weapons tighter. And then the Krathul charged again. The battle restarted with terrifying force. The war beasts roared, slamming their massive limbs into buildings, crushing everything in their path. Energy blasts screamed through the air, burning everything they touched. The humans fought back with everything they had. Grenades, snipers, whatever was left. But the Krathul kept coming. Daniel fired until his gun clicked empty. He grabbed another rifle from a fallen comrade and kept shooting. Every second mattered. Inside the mothership, the strike team moves in. Far above the burning city, Jack Reynolds and his strike team slipped inside the Krathul mothership. The air smelled of burnt metal and something worse, something alien. The corridors were dark, pulsing with blue energy. Jack gripped his weapon, moving forward. His team followed in silence. Dr. Elias Carter held a tablet, scanning the ship's structure. Emma's coordinates are up ahead, he whispered. If she's still alive, we'll find her there. Jack nodded. Move fast. The deeper they went, the more they saw evidence of what the Krathul had done. Human bodies hung from the walls, some experimented on, others drained of life. The Krathul weren't just here to conquer. They were here to feed. Jack's hands tightened around his rifle. We end this. Now. Emma Carter, trapped in the heart of the beast. Emma Carter had survived the collapse, but barely. She was trapped beneath a pile of debris inside the mothership, her body aching, her vision blurry. But she had one advantage. She was inside the enemy's command center. Through the gaps in the rubble, she saw the Krathul High Commander, Zirek, standing before a massive energy core. It pulsed with a deep, eerie light. Zurich wasn't like the others. He was larger, standing nearly 9 feet tall, with armor that seemed to shift like liquid metal. His eyes glowed with unnatural intelligence. He was more than just a leader. He was something else. Emma's breath was shallow as she listened. Zurich was speaking in his alien tongue, his voice deep and menacing. They resist. They fight, but they do not understand. We are not invaders. We are cleansers. Their existence is a disease. Their planet is ours. Emma gritted her teeth. Then she saw it, a terminal connected to the power core. She knew what she had to do. She reached for her radio, whispering, "Jack, I found the core, and I found their leader." Jack's voice came through immediately. "Hold tight. We're coming." Emma's fingers moved quickly, tapping into the Krathel system. She didn't understand their language, but she understood patterns. If she could trigger an overload, she could disable their fleet, maybe even destroy the entire mothership. Her fingers hovered over a final command. Then a shadow fell over her. Zurich had turned. His glowing eyes locked onto her. "You," he said. Emma didn't hesitate. She slammed the command button. The mothership's alarms screamed. The lights flickered. The power core shook violently. Zurich roared, lunging toward her. Emma rolled away, just as the rubble behind her exploded. Jack's team had arrived. The final fight. Man versus monster. Jack opened fire, his rifle flashing as bullets slammed into Zurich's armor. The alien barely flinched. He moved too fast, too strong, cutting through Jack's soldiers like they were nothing. Jack dodged a powerful strike, rolling to the side. "Carter, what did you do?" Emma grinned weakly. "I set the core to overload." Dr. Carter gasped. "That's going to trigger a chain reaction." "This whole ship will." "Exactly," Emma said. "We take him down and get out, or we all die." Zurich lunged, his massive claw slashing toward Jack. Jack barely blocked with his rifle, the force sending him flying. He crashed against the wall, pain exploding through his ribs. Zurich raised a massive arm for the killing blow. And then Emma fired a stolen Krathel weapon directly at his chest. The alien screamed as the blast tore through his armor, black energy spilling out like blood. Jack didn't waste a second. He grabbed a grenade, pulled the pin, and shoved it into Zurich's wound. "Burn in hell," Jack growled. He dived away as the explosion ripped through Zurich's body. The alien commander staggered, his body collapsing as his own ship's power turned against him. He tried to rise, but his strength was failing. His last words were a whisper. "You cannot stop what is coming." Then his body crumbled into dust. The escape, a race against time. The mothership was falling apart. The overload had gone critical. Fires raged through the halls. The walls cracked and split. Jack grabbed Emma's arm, pulling her up. "Movie." The team ran through the collapsing corridors, dodging falling debris and explosions. The whole ship was tearing itself apart. They'd reached the hangar. Jack slammed the controls, opening the bay doors. The remaining Hell Reapers waited outside, their engines burning bright. Jack pushed Emma into one. "Go." As the ships blasted into the sky, the mothership finally exploded. A massive shockwave tore through the battlefield. The Krathel forces below looked up in horror as their leader's ship vanished in a blinding fireball. For the first time, the invaders hesitated. For the first time, they saw what humans were capable of. And for the first time, they knew fear. The war wasn't over, but humanity had struck back, and the fight had only just begun. The Krathel mothership was gone. A massive fireball had replaced it in the sky, lighting up the night like a dying sun. Its wreckage rained down over New London, scattering in all directions, a final testament to humanity's defiance. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, the battlefield erupted. The remaining Krathel forces screamed in confusion. Their leader was dead. Their command structure was in ruins. The alien war beasts snarled and hesitated, suddenly unsure. The enemy had never expected humanity to strike back this hard. And Daniel Hayes wasn't about to waste the opportunity. Standing among the ruins, covered in blood and dirt, he lifted his rifle and roared into the sky, a primal cry of victory. His men echoed his call, their voices rising in defiance. "Push them back," Daniel shouted. The remaining human fighters, tired, wounded, and low on ammo, charged forward one last time. Grenades flew, gunfire erupted. The Krathul, leaderless and confused, fell back. Some ran. Some tried to fight to the bitter end, but they were cut down mercilessly. The invincible invaders, the monsters who had come to erase Earth, were retreating. A war won, but not over. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the city of New London lay in ruins. Buildings were reduced to rubble. Streets were lined with the dead, human and alien alike. Fires still burned in the distance, and the air smelled of ash and blood. Daniel leaned against a collapsed wall, exhaustion crashing down on him like a tidal wave. His body ached, his hands still shaking from the adrenaline. Around him, his soldiers were tending to the wounded, searching for survivors, and gathering weapons from fallen Krathul warriors. They had survived. But the war wasn't over. Daniel turned as a group of resistance fighters approached, escorting a Krathul prisoner. Unlike the others, this alien was trembling, his four-clawed hands held high in surrender. His armor was scorched, and one of his mandibles was broken. He was afraid. Daniel stepped forward, gripping his rifle. "You saw what happened to your leader," he said. His voice was raw, but steady. "Tell the rest of your kind. Earth is not yours, and it never will be." The alien lowered his gaze, nodding slowly. Then, to everyone's shock, he spoke in broken English. "We were wrong," the Krathul said. His voice was deep, rasping. "You are not weak." Daniel stared at him for a long moment before stepping back. "Get him out of here. Make sure he delivers the message." Two soldiers grabbed the alien and led him away. Jack and Emma, the future of humanity. Deep inside a hidden underground command bunker, Jack Reynolds stood before a massive holographic display. The battle for New London was won, but now the real war was beginning. Beside him, Dr. Elias Carter examined data streaming in from satellites and surviving resistance cells across the planet. "The Krathul forces are pulling back in multiple regions," Carter said. "Whatever you did up there, Jack, it's working." Jack nodded. "Taking out their leader sent them into chaos. But they'll recover." He turned to Emma, who was sitting nearby, her arm wrapped in a sling, bruises covering her face. She had barely survived the mothership's explosion, but she was alive. She gave him a tired smirk. "You still owe me a drink." Jack chuckled. "Once we win this war, I'll buy you 100. Their small moment of relief was interrupted when a technician rushed in, breathless. "Sir, you need to see this." Jack followed the man to a communication console. A screen flickered, revealing a transmission from deep space. It wasn't from Earth. It was from the Krathul homeworld. The image of another Krathul leader appeared, larger and more ornate than Zurich. His red eyes burned with rage as he spoke in his guttural language. A translator decoded his words instantly. "You have slain our commander. You have defied our rule. You believe this is victory. But you are mistaken." The message continued, the alien's voice filled with fury. "We now recognize humanity as a true threat. Your planet will not be enslaved. It will be burned." The screen went dark. Jack exhaled slowly. "So that's it then," he murmured. "We didn't scare them off. We pissed them off." Emma rubbed her forehead. "I hate being right." Carter looked up from his screens. "If they send their full fleet, we won't be able to stop them. Earth doesn't have the numbers or the weapons to fight a full-scale invasion." Silence filled the room. Then Jack stepped forward, his expression hardening. Then we don't wait for them to come, he said. We take the fight to them. Emma raised an eyebrow. You're talking about an offensive war. Jack nodded. We know how they operate. They hit fast. They hit hard. But we just showed them that humans don't break. Now we show them something else. He turned back to the holographic display. A map of the Crothall homeworld was slowly appearing. They think we're just animals fighting for survival, Jack said. Let's teach them what happens when humans go on the hunt. A new war begins. Across the planet, news of the victory at New London spread. Resistance cells around the world began to rise up, inspired by the battle. The Crothall had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened something far worse, a species that refused to kneel. Humanity had won a battle. Now, they were preparing for war. And for the first time in history, they were taking the war to the stars.